Former President Trump says he knows who is going to be his VP choice, but he hasn't told the people who are vying for the job yet. Trump says he'll announce his decision around the time of the Republican National Convention. That is set for July 15th in Milwaukee. We want to show you some of the top contenders right now. Doug Burgum, Tim Scott, Marco Rubio, D.Vance, Tom Cotton, Byron Donalds, Elise Stefanik, and Ben Carson among them. Joining us now, senior staff writer at The Hill, Alexander Bolton, to talk about the options on the table. If you were to choose, who do you think is the most likely pick for Donald Trump right now among those?
Well, I personally think D.Vance is the most likely pick. I think he has some intangibles that the others don't. He's a great communicator. He has a lot of gravitas. I mean, he single-handedly led the fight against Ukraine funding in the Senate, and for a Republican freshman was very effective in a way that you don't often see senators. And I think he has, he's close to Peter Thiel, the tech mogul who's a big donor. He's been setting up fundraisers for Trump with the Silicon Valley bigwigs. I think he has a lot of firepower. I view him as sort of the strongest pick for Trump. Now, one of my colleagues who covers the campaign, the Trump campaign on a daily basis, thinks that Marco Rubio has the pole position because he would help with Hispanic voters. He's looked at more kindly by the Republican establishment. He's seen as more of a mainstream establishment type figure. But the downside there is that because Rubio's from Florida, Trump's from Florida, someone would have to change their residence. Otherwise, according to the Constitution, the Florida electoral votes would not go to that to Trump if he did, in fact, win Florida. So that's a major issue right there.
We often hear the term balance the ticket, right? Who would be the most effective choice among those being batted around that would do that?
Well, I've been talking to Republican senators on Capitol Hill for months about this, and I've heard from a few of them that having two white men on the ticket would be a mistake in this day and age. And so, and that's because, people want to see diversity on the ticket. And also, the black vote is going to be critical to the outcome of this race. So if you take that into account, then Tim Scott, he's the only black member of the Senate Republican Conference. He has a great, Horatio Alger story. It came from, a very modest background to rose to become a leading member of the Senate. He would be seen as a kind of a leading pick if you want to balance the ticket, so to speak. But on the other hand, Rubio is also, he's Latino. He speaks fluent Spanish. So, and of course, the Hispanic vote will also be very critical to this election. So he would also help balance the ticket. And of course, a woman like Elise Stefanik from New York, she would help balance the ticket. Women voters are also very important, but she is a House member, so she doesn't have the same stature as some of those other names.
Does the former president's legal troubles play into any of this, into his pick, Alexander, as a VP candidate?
That's a really good question. And I think it does. I think you have to cover every base when you're putting this together. And if Trump is incarcerated, I mean it's unlikely to happen. You're going to need to pick someone whom you can trust and who is not. I think if from Trump's standpoint, there's the 25th Amendment out there. The vice president of the cabinet can trigger the 25th Amendment if it deems you unfit for office. So I think Trump wants to make sure that whoever he picks is loyal without question. And I think when your legal troubles are mounting up, you're facing possible incarceration, however unlikely, not impossible, then I think you really want to pick a loyalist who's going to have your back in case there is a debate that, well, look, he's the president is a convicted felon, not fit for office. You want someone who's not going to be trying to side with any coup to bump you either off the ticket or out of office.
Well, we'll know sooner than later. Senior staff writer at The Hill, Alexander Bolton, thanks for your time. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.